Hey everybody, and welcome to another review on my channel, and today we're going to be taking a look at a brick build set by Miniso based on SpongeBob SquarePants. And the set we're going to be taking a look at today is called the Mini Pineapple House. This set comes with 128 pieces and is recommended for ages 6 and up. And we're going to start by taking a look at the two figures that are included in this set, starting with SpongeBob SquarePants. And I do feel like that this is a relatively decent looking SpongeBob figure. You can see that there is some really nice printing found on the front of SpongeBob here. There's some really nice printed detail on the shirt of SpongeBob, and he is wearing his white sleeves. And of course, SpongeBob is rocking his black shoes. However, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more detail for the socks. And as we take SpongeBob and spin him around to the side here, you can see that the mold for the body that Miniso has created is rather detailed. I do like its overall shape, and I feel like it's extremely accurate to the character's design. A detail that I would have liked to have seen with this figure is the printing for SpongeBob's belt be wrapped all the way around the body of the figure. It's not necessarily a huge deal, but it is something that I would have liked to have seen. A cool detail about this figure is you can actually remove the eyes of SpongeBob, and Miniso does include a second pair of eyes that are slightly squinted that you can place onto SpongeBob to make it look like he's laughing. However, when I went to place the eyes, I don't think I had them properly aligned, and I pushed a little too hard and they ended up breaking. So you do have to be careful with this play feature. Luckily, I did have a second pair of eyes, so here's what SpongeBob looks like with them on. And you can also take the eyes and put them on upside down to make him look a little bit more relaxed. You also may have noticed that at the top of SpongeBob's head, there is a singular stud sticking out. This is so you can place his Krusty Krab hat on top of his head. However, this is where the review starts to go downhill because as you can see, there is no printed detail on the hat whatsoever. And you can see that on the front of the box, there clearly is meant to be some kind of printing here. And with the printed detail that is found on both of these figures, I was rather surprised to see my Krusty Krab hat was completely blank. The other figure that's included in the set is Squidward. And just like with SpongeBob, I do feel like this is a rather decent looking figure. I do like the overall shape of Squidward here. I find it to be pretty accurate to the character's design. And I do genuinely like the printed detail that is found on the face of Squidward. I think it fits the character perfectly. Something that I would have liked to have seen with this figure is a little bit of printed detail found on the bottom of Squidward's tentacles. If you look towards the feet of the figure, you can see that they are completely blank. And we're going to follow up on that detail in just a moment, but you can see that Squidward also is rocking his plain brown t-shirt. Taking a look at the sticker sheet, you can see that there are a couple of stickers included for the detail on the bottom of Squidward's tentacles. However, I really don't like this design choice as I feel like the stickers are really hard to align personally. And again, with the printed quality that is on these figures, it does make me question why Miniso decided to go with this design choice instead of just printing this detail on the figure. Squidward does come with a second head that does have a different expression, and you can see that with this facial expression, Squidward has a more neutral look. And there is a stud on top of Squidward's head that you can place the Krusty Krab hat onto. But again, having this piece be completely blank and having no detail whatsoever is criminal in my opinion. With the minifigures out of the way, we're ready to talk about the build for this set, which is SpongeBob's Pineapple House. And I'm really not the biggest fan of this design or the overall color for the pineapple. I think it's rather ugly looking if I'm being completely honest. There is no printed detail on the Pineapple House whatsoever, so all of the detail you see here are stickers. The door is made up of two different stickers, which I found to be relatively hard to align, and the windows of the Pineapple House are placed across multiple pieces, which I'm not the biggest fan of either. However, I will say that the quality of the stickers is not the worst I've ever seen, and I do think that they do a decent job getting the detail that is supposed to be there. My biggest issue with the Pineapple House is if we take a look at it from the side here, you can see that it juts out a little bit and it doesn't fit together very well and looks kind of awkward and ugly. However, if you take a look at the instructions, which by the way are completely horrible, you can see that there are some inconsistencies where the base of this build should be located. Not only that, but I did find the instructions relatively hard to read and it made for a pretty frustrating build process. Here's a look at the back half of the build, which again I find to be rather ugly, but you're going to be having the set facing the other way, so you're not really going to see this side too often. The top of the Pineapple House is able to be lifted upward, and you are able to place SpongeBob inside, which is a nice feature I suppose, but I really don't see the point of including this into the build. There are a couple of smaller side builds that are included with the Pineapple House. This includes a plant with some sticker detail, a seesaw, and a jellyfish. And I really don't see the point of including this little simple seesaw build for the figure. It's not very sturdy and I don't feel like it has a lot of play value. The last thing that I want to mention about this set is they are expecting you to pay a whopping $20 for it. And while I do find the two minifigures that are included in this set to be rather decent, everything else that is included is a little lackluster in my opinion. I will say that when I did buy this set, Miniso had a sale going on where you could get two sets for $20. So technically I only paid $10 for this, but I don't even think it's really worth that price either. Be sure to let me know what you think of this set in the comments below and like and subscribe to my channel for more brick built reviews in the future. Hey everybody, and welcome to another Miniso SpongeBob review here on my channel, and today we're going to be taking a look at the set called the Mini Patty Wagon. This set comes with 125 pieces and is recommended for ages 6 and up. And we're going to kick off this review by taking a look at the figures that are included, starting with SpongeBob SquarePants. And this is the same figure that I reviewed in the Mini Pineapple House yesterday. However, the printed detail on this figure I find to be in much worse condition. If you take a look at the white part of SpongeBob's shirt, you can see that there are some scratches and chips in the white printing. And I do find this to be disappointing, of course, because I do feel like this could be a relatively solid figure. As you can see, the overall shape and design of SpongeBob is relatively strong and accurate to the character's core design. And I personally would have liked to have seen the belt of SpongeBob be printed all the way around the figure. As you can see, as we spin the figure around to the back, there is no printing to be seen. But you can see that the white printing on the back of the figure is pretty scratched up as well. Overall, while I do like this figure's look and design, I'm not overly impressed with the quality that is presented here. SpongeBob does come with a second pair of eyes that you can put onto the character to make it look like he's laughing. And while I do think that this is a really cool inclusion, I do find the eyes to be really hard to remove. And if you watched my review of the Mini Pineapple House, they actually broke while I was trying to change them. The other figure that's in this set is Patrick Star, who I actually think is a relatively solid looking figure. Patrick does come with a really cool facial expression that is goofy, which is accurate to the character's depiction in the TV series. You can also see that Patrick has some printed detail for his belly button and the printing on his shorts. And unlike the SpongeBob figure, the printed quality here on Patrick is in much better condition. And I will say that the SpongeBob figure that I got on the Mini Pineapple House was also in relatively good condition, so hopefully the condition of the SpongeBob we just took a look at is an abnormality when it comes to these Miniso sets. But as we make our way around to the back of Patrick here, you can see that his overall shape and design is relatively good. Patrick does come with a second facial expression that is on a completely different headpiece. And I personally like this design choice more instead of replacing the eyes like on SpongeBob, as it is much easier to swap the faces of the character. With the minifigures out of the way, we're ready to talk about the Mini Patty Wagon. And while I do like the idea of this set in theory, I feel like the design of the Patty Wagon is a little lackluster and ugly in my personal opinion. There is no printed detail on the Patty Wagon, so the detail that you see here are stickers. But I do like the inclusion of having a "To Go" on the license plate on the front of the vehicle. Taking a look at the wagon from the side, again you can see that it's relatively ugly and there's this really awkward piece sticking out of the back. But we'll be talking about what that piece does later, and you can also see that there's some sticker detail found at the top of the wagon as well. There's also this really simple brick-built flag that also has a sticker for detail. Here's another look at the Patty Wagon, and if I'm being completely honest, if I didn't have any context to what this vehicle would be, I don't think I'd really guess that it's supposed to be a Krabby Patty. Here's a look at the Patty Wagon with Patrick inside, and I will say that he does seem to fit in relatively well for what you'd expect from a set like this. There is also a couple of accessories included with this set. These include 4 pieces with stickers that have various sea creatures, as well as a purple skateboard which also has some sticker detail. On the back of the box, it shows off a play feature where you take that long piece found throughout the middle of the wagon and push SpongeBob while on his skateboard into these 4 pieces, which I do feel like is a relatively good idea in theory, but as you can see when I try it here, it's a little lackluster. The SpongeBob figure is very heavy, so this time I try to launch him with a little bit more force, which did seem to work relatively well, but you can see that the back of the wagon came off during the process, so I'm not entirely impressed with this play feature. The best part about this set is Miniso expects you to pay a whopping $20 for it. And if you haven't been able to tell from my review, I am not going to recommend picking this set up for $20. However, I will say that when I bought this set, Miniso had a sale where you could get 2 SpongeBob sets for $20. So technically, I paid $10 for it, but even at that price, I don't think I can recommend it. Thank you so much for watching my review, and be sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel for more brick built reviews in the future. Hey everybody, and welcome to another Miniso SpongeBob review here on my channel, and today we're going to be taking a look at this set called the Mini Krusty Krab. This set comes with a total of 128 pieces and is recommended for ages 6 and up. And we're going to kick things off by taking a look at the figures that are included in this set, starting with SpongeBob SquarePants. And this is my 3rd copy of this guy, so my opinions are going to remain largely the same if you've watched my other 2 reviews. But to sum it up, I do feel like this could be a relatively good figure if it had higher printed quality. And I do like the overall shape and look of SpongeBob, but if you look at his shirt, you can see that there are a couple of scratches and nicks on the printing. And like I said, this is my 3rd SpongeBob figure, and 2 out of the 3 had this issue. But I do feel like it is worth mentioning that if you do decide to pick up one of these Miniso sets, your SpongeBob might come with a couple of scratches on him. SpongeBob does come with a second pair of eyes that are squinted to give him the effect of laughing. And this is a pretty cool detail, but I will say the eyes are relatively hard to remove and replace. And you can't have a Krusty Krab set without including the boss himself, Mr. Krabs. And I do like the overall look and design of Mr. Krabs here, and he is in much better condition than the SpongeBob we took a look at a minute ago. Really, the only thing that I think could have made this figure a little bit better is if the belt printed detail was wrapped all the way around Mr. Krabs. As we turn Mr. Krabs around to the side here, you can see the belt just kind of awkwardly stops halfway around his body. But other than that, I think this is a pretty solid Mr. Krabs figure. I think the head mold for this character is really strong, and I do like the mold for the claws as well. And as we turn Mr. Krabs around to the back here, you can see that he does have a little nick there on his butt, but this doesn't bother me nearly as bad as the horrible printing on SpongeBob. Mr. Krabs does come with a second head that you can replace to give him a different expression. And while this is a cool feature, I'm not really the biggest fan of this other facial expression, as I feel like it looks a little awkward and strange. With the 2 figures out of the way, we're ready to talk about the very simplistic looking Krusty Krab that comes in this set. And out of the 3 Miniso SpongeBob sets I've reviewed so far, this is by far my favorite build. But with that being said, I still don't think this is an amazing build by any means, so let's get into it. We're going to start by taking a look at the sign for the Krusty Krab, which is made up of only a couple of pieces. And I would have liked to have seen the sign have more of a clam-like design like you see in the TV show, and it uses a sticker for detail. The actual build for the Krusty Krab itself is relatively simple in design, but I will say that it does feel more sturdy than I initially anticipated. The flag detail you see on the front of the building is a sticker, and as we turn it around to the side you can see a couple of transparent windows. Turning the Krusty Krab all the way around to the back will reveal a small opening, and then as we continue to turn the Krusty Krab you can find another pair of transparent windows. And the Krusty Krab is able to open up thanks to 2 hinge pieces found throughout the build. There's not much in terms of detail here. There is a small table and chair, and I also want to take note that I'm not really the biggest fan of these yellow pieces Miniso included on the build. I feel like they look a little strange and out of place. But I will say that this build does feel more sturdy than the other 2 Miniso sets I've taken a look at. While filming this review, I didn't feel like the Krusty Krab was going to fall apart in my hand, so I'm going to call that a win. If you remove the table and chair inside of the Krusty Krab, you are able to fit SpongeBob inside, as well as Mr. Krabs. And this is a cool play feature I suppose, but you're not really going to get a lot of play value for kids out of this build. This set also includes a money conveyor belt that uses some sticker for detail for the dollar bills. There is a knob found on the side of the conveyor belt that you can rotate to move the dollar bills along the machine. And surprisingly, this feature works pretty well, and I actually think it's a rather nice inclusion to the set. The mini Krusty Krab retails for a whopping $19.99. But I will say that I did buy this set for $10 because Miniso had a sale where you could get 2 of them for $20. And for $10, I could see this being a set that people may want to pick up, but I wouldn't pay $20 for it. Thank you so much for watching my review, and be sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel for more brick built reviews.